All right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Intermediate JavaScript Lesson 4 video. Let's get started. All right, we're going to start with some review. Why do we need to set the background color in the draw function? I'll give you a few seconds to answer this on your own, and then we will reveal the answer. All right, we need it because the animation needs to constantly redraw an image over from the original spot. If we don't redraw the background over, then it will show the previous image of the object. For example, if we had a car, the car would just elongate and the previous image of the car would be still shown, which would not be good for animation. All right, question number 2. How do you get a random number? We use random with low, high, or min, max. All right, let's do some more review. When does the draw function run? It runs every frame. When does mouse pressed run? It runs when the mouse is clicked. And what does mouse X and mouse Y tell us? It tells us the current mouse position in the coordinate plane. All right. So we're just going to do a quick recap question. Look at the code over here. The question is, when does this code run? Every frame, when the key is pressed, or when the mouse is clicked? The answer is when the mouse is clicked. All right, let's compare. The draw function keeps repeating over and over by itself, while mouse pressed only runs once each time you click it. All right, and using mouse X and mouse Y, inside this function, when you press on the area, it will draw an ellipse where your mouse is. All right, now we're going to start our final project, which we will be working on for lessons 4, 5, and 6. Let's do a quick demo. So there'll be multiple apples falling, and you'll have a wooden bowl catcher, and your goal is to catch the apples, just like this. When you catch them, or if they fall off the screen, they will reappear at the top, just like here. And if you want to, we can also add a scoring system if we have more time later in the lessons. All right. All right, the game. For this project, we will be making a game where you can catch falling apples just like the demo, and you can move your catcher left and right using your left and right keys on your keyboard. Today, we will be making 2 new functions that will make the apple and the apple catcher, and then we will be using keys pressed and key code to make the catcher move left and right. All right, let's get started on the game. But first, we need to quickly review parameters to help us with coding. All right. So in this situation right here, we have a new function, and it has 3 parameters, A, B, and C. And as we can see, if we call it on line 5 using 10, 20, and 30, that will correlate to A, B, and C. And so A will be 10, B will be 20, and C will be 30. All right. So let's make the apples. You can make a new project inside of Khan Academy. All right, so we are going to make a new function called drawApple. Okay, so we're going to have some parameters, and we're going to use shapes like an ellipse. So you can pause the video and try this out yourself, and then resume the video once you are done. All right. Now we also need to make the catcher function. For this, we're going to need new global variables for its x and y coordinates, and we're also going to need to learn some new shapes. For this, it's really helpful to use arcs. Arcs are pretty much exactly the same as an ellipse, except you can slice it like a pizza using degrees. So here in the image, you can see that it starts horizontally at 0 degrees, and then it extends out however many degrees you extend it, and in this case, it was 55 degrees. So you can make any design you want for the catcher, but we're going to try this one. So if we have a arc starting at 0 degrees and ending, what do you think this arc is ending at if it starts here and ends all the way over here? It ends at 180 degrees. All right, and then this will be the base of the catcher. And then if we have another ellipse with a larger length and height, and we add those together, we get a kind of 3D looking effect of a wooden bowl. Isn't that pretty cool? Again, you can use any design you want, but this one is not that complicated and looks pretty good, and looks like it actually would catch the apples. All right. So once you make your catcher function, you can pause the video and do that. Then we can move on and add the draw function. So you can just create a draw function, and you can call your two functions inside of the draw function. Remember to use parameters, and remember to use your background. So like we talked in the beginning of the lesson. All right, so you can pause and do that, and then unpause when you are ready. Now we need to make the catcher move, and we're going to be doing this inside of the draw function. So, like you learned in the previous intermediate JavaScript lessons, we can use keys pressed as a Boolean, and it is true when a key is being pressed on and false otherwise. And we can also use the key code to distinguish different keys. All right, so if we use keys pressed and key code, and then we also want to change a variable if you press a key. So think, what variable are we going to be changing for the catcher? It's going to look something like this. If something and something, then something's going to happen. So you can pause the video and try that out yourself. Remember, we're going to be making these inside of the draw function. All right. How can we stop the catcher from moving off the screen, though? Just like in the image shown, the catcher is off the screen. So how can we stop this from happening? Take a moment to pause and think. Here's a hint. We can make the if statements false when the catcher's coordinates are off the screen. So you can add this to your code and pause the video, and then when you are ready, you can unpause and we will continue. All right. Now we're going to go over the answers in case you were stuck. Again, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, but this is one way that it will work. So we have our background so that the draw function can actually work. And then we have the first if statement for moving to the left, and the second if statement for moving to the right. As we can see, we have key is pressed, we have key code, and we also have another thing where the catcher's x coordinate cannot be less than 5 plus its radius. So this will make it so the catcher does not move off the screen. And then we decrease the catcher's x coordinate. And then it's the other way around for moving right. And then we draw an apple. This just draws it in the center of the screen, but we just have it there so that the apple is there and we can just, it's for practice. And then we also can draw the catcher. All right, nice. If you want to move ahead, you can add a text to make a title to the game, or we can start the next lesson and there will be a video for that. There we will be making multiple apples and we'll be making them fall and reappear. All right, make sure to save your project. We don't want to lose all that code you just wrote. All right, and remember we have office hours. All right, great job.